Owning a home is full of surprises. Some wonderful, some not so much. And when something breaks, it can feel like the whole day unravels. That's why HomeServe exists. For as little as $4.99 a month, you'll always have someone to call. A trusted professional ready to help, bringing peace of mind to 4.5 million homeowners nationwide. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to homeserve.com. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
Well, hi, everybody. It's Mindy, Ed, and Don Rickles podcast, and it's super early in the morning, Mindy.
Yes, Ed, I know.
Yeah, it's pretty
I was
early.
just feeding the chickens, but I'm back now.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a joke in there,
I've
but
been out in the field.
in the field.
Yeah,
The
on the
fields have been
fields the
seen
whole
out.
morning. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Feeding the chickens and milking the cows.
We were
It's
mentioning that our
awesome.
dog Bella. I mean, here we are, both of us up, running around the
Right.
kitchen, drinking coffee, chatting it up, and Bella's still in the bed, just laying there, which is
Right,
not
because
what you
she's
would
on a
normally do.
clock,
She's on
my
her own
clock,
clock.
which is getting up at 10,
Right.
12. No, getting up much later. So she's sound asleep right
Right.
now.
Right.
But
Are you
I'm
guys
happy to be here.
Are you one of those families from the 1800s, 40 acres and a mule with chickens and
That's
getting
right.
up with the
That's
sunrise?
right.
My goodness, you're out working the back 40.
That's right. Hey, everybody. That's Dave Coulier, in case you hadn't noticed when you clicked
It
on.
certainly is. I'm very
Yeah.
excited.
Yes. He's our special guest this
I'm
week.
what's left of him. Yes.
What's left of Dave.
Yeah.
The remains of Dave.
Yeah.
Well, Dave,
God.
for many, many reasons, we're happy to have you here. I think the world is very happy to have you here, period. I mean, after what you've been through.
Thank you.
And, well, no kidding. I mean, you're certainly one of the most well-liked people in America, probably the world. And I'll say this because in 90, well, let me tell you, in 90, I've known Dave a while. We'll get into that later. But in 1990, late 1990, I moved to France for a radio thing. And I turned on the television, and the first thing that I saw was a French dubbed version of Full House. And I just fell over laughing. I thought it was just, this guy's around the world now. It's absolutely spectacular.
It's called La Fête de la Maison in France, the party
That's
in the
right.
house.
That's
Oh,
right.
wow. I love that.
Yeah,
Oh,
La
that's
Fête de
right.
la Maison.
So great.
Yeah, so I can safely say you taught me French, which I didn't think was possible, but there it is, just by the notion that you were on television, speaking French apparently, via some French guy. So that was pretty fun.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, he's one of the funniest people on the planet. He's somebody I've known for umpteen decades, believe it or not, and I've been joyful every moment that you've had as your career just expanded into the universe, and made me and a lot of our friends who knew you from UCLA, which is where we met, very, very happy and proud. And
Thank you.
It's really some kind of career you've had. And not to jump around too much, but now you do a lot of voice work.
I do. I just started a new series yesterday for Paramount Plus, and it's called Elephant and Piggy, and it's based on the children's books written by Mo Willem, and they're fantastic. And it's about a pig and an elephant who are best friends, and I play a sales penguin, who's a little penguin who's always trying to sell them stuff. And so he's
So it's
a little
sort of like Death of a Salesman, but a funny, happy version.
Yes, Birth of an Ice Cube, I think is what it should be.
Right, exactly.
But it's this wonderful show, and I just started yesterday, and I'm so excited about it. And I'm a new grandfather, so
congratulations!
Thank you very much.
Is that your son, Luke?
Is that Luke's dad?
My son,
yeah.
Luke, and his wife, Alex, have a little baby boy who's going to be 1 next month. His name is Chance. And as I was recording this show for little guys, I thought, Chance is going to be watching Grandpa's Voice someday, because he's going to love this show. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, that's so great. And we met your son, Luke, at Bob Saget's memorial. And I have to say,
yes,
I loved him so much. He is so adorable
What a
and
nice man.
fabulous.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was
Thank
like,
you.
I love him. He's like a son to me. Yeah, he was so cute.
Don't get carried
We
away.
had such a great time
But yeah.
talking
He's
to
a
him.
very, very nice, polite, respectful young
Very.
man, and he loves. He's a pilot for FedEx, and he loves flying around the
Wow.
world. And
Mm,
he got that from me. We can talk about that later too.
you
And
Yeah.
should.
uh, but thank you for saying that. Yeah, it makes me feel
Oh,
really
God.
proud when I get that kind of feedback about him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
He
I
really
was
left,
just
you
absolutely
know.
impressed. It was just a big smile on his
Yeah.
face the whole time. I told him I'd known your dad for a while, and he just wanted to hear everything. And I said, I'm not going to tell you everything because you have to ask your dad about this stuff. But it was really a nice chance to meet him. As sad as that moment was, and funny, frankly, as that whole evening was, Luke was an absolute highlight.
Oh, that's so
But
nice. Thank you.
But I would like to go back to somewhat of the origin story a bit. And I know that when you first came to Los Angeles, I was a student at UCLA, and you were just getting started. You're like, gosh, I'll let you tell it, but I gotta make some money at this. I'm going to make a start at this. I want to get into comedy and make this thing work professionally. And you and Bob came out. I imagine maybe with other folks, and we're doing kind of the frat boy circuit. And maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know, the dorms or whatever. How did that all start? Because I don't even remember how that began for you.
Well, the Comedy Store would actually send us out on those. And so we never knew what we were getting into. A lot of times there was no microphone. So I remember standing on a table doing a show at UCLA at some frat house. And I remember, a couple of times just being on the floor, standing there with no mic, no lights, nothing, and just like, hey, the show's going to start. Where? That guy over there.
Oh,
And that's it.
gosh.
That's what it was. So, the Comedy Store really didn't like set up a full stage or anything. It was like, go and make them laugh. And it was
Right.
like $50. And our Comedy Store sets at the time were $20. So $50 was like, ooh, this is a jump, And we all did it. Me, Shandling, Saget, Kevin Nealon, everybody was doing those sets over at UCLA. And it was just because the Comedy Store was sending us out. Mitzi would go, I heard you were funny from some UCLA kids. All right, career's going great.
It really was fun. And you came and did our house, and you got to meet some of our now mutual friends. Steve Bay and Steve Adler and some folks that we really appreciated what you were doing. Literally to the point, you did great voices. That was something that you were so adept at. Famously, you do Popeye, of course, and there's so many other vocal tricks that you do. And we just stood there with our jaws dropping, amazed at some of the things that you could do as a performer. And Bob would just come in and swear and make fun of people and talk about poop and dicks.
Oh, I know. It's funny because I always I knew Bob. I can go back to Bob, but we met here in Detroit when I was 18 years old, and Bob was coming through on a Comedy Store tour with Fred Raker and another guy named Jeff DeHart. And I saw Bob walk into this little comedy night that I was doing. I'd only done stand-up twice, and Bob walks in and he just blows the room away. And he was the best young comedian I had ever seen by far. And I just said, I want to be friends with that guy. And so when Bob and I became friends, he was filthy all the time. So I used to introduce him to people. I'd say, hey, this is my filthy Jewish sister, Bob. and he loved that. He loved that. So then there were times when I would just go, it's my friend Bob, and he'd pull me aside and he'd go, you forgot to say the filthy Jewish sister part. And I'd go, oh, you want me to say that every time? He goes, yeah, I'm your filthy Jewish sister. So I realized how much Bob loved me introducing him that way when he, when he reprimanded me.
Yeah, but just interacting with you guys when we were young, and all we wanted to do was just laugh. We were under all kinds of whatever tension it was, just being students. And anytime someone could come in and just get us on the floor, we were so thrilled. But Dave and I became friends a bit, and then our other pal, Steve Adler, whose parents owned a shoe store, a shoe chain actually, said, you know what, we need somebody to help us, come up with lines and maybe even do some recording. And you had done some work in radio, as I recall, in Detroit. I think it was WMBX or some station like that.
And
I don't really recall.
WABX is where I
ABX.
started right out of high school, and I started writing commercials, and they said, hey, you do some funny voices. Why don't we put those on our commercials? So I started writing commercials with the character voices that I could do, and that's kind of how I got my start.
Yeah.
So I loved
interesting.
writing ads. I loved writing ad copy. And
it
so
is fun to do. And
when
I've been doing it, all my life too. Yeah.
Yeah, when I met Steve Adler and he said, hey, would you like to write some commercials? I was like, that'd be great. And two other guys helped me out. Mark Sandrowski, who I've known since third grade. If his name isn't familiar, just watch any episode of The Big Bang Theory. He's directed all 12 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Just about every single show. So we've been best friends since we were 8 years old. And Mark and I were roommates right when we met you guys. And so Mark and I wrote a lot of those spots together.
I did not know that. I know you came in with copy, and I was like, this stuff is terrific. And, of course, Steve used it. And I think one of the great lines was the Adler Shoes, the shoe store for people with feet. And
yes.
Was that the line?
Yes.
Wow.
That was the line. And we thought, wow.
I came up with that line.
You did. Simple, clean, perfect. And you delivered it, too. Yeah. But we remained friends for quite a while. And I got into radio, and Dave's stand-up, started blossoming. You went on the road some, too, didn't you? You did some road work?
A ton. Yeah. There was one year where I went out 42 weeks. I was out one year. And
God.
that was a lot of traveling. But I was 20 years old, and it was exciting. And I couldn't believe that I could go to these rooms all over the country and headline and, make like $700 for the week. It was like so much money compared to comedy store gigs, and you were headlining, and you would do the local radio and TV shows. And so you'd kind of come in town, and for 5 days you got to be kind of like a local star, and it was great training because some of those clubs were pretty rough. You talk about, it was so rough, but I got hit with beer bottles. I got punched. I got beat up at the Pittsburgh Comedy Club.
Oh my gosh.
And went on stage the next night with a huge shiner. That's when Dennis Miller was opening for me, believe it or not. Yeah. And so Dennis later came out and stayed on our couch, me and Sandrowski. I saw Dennis, and he said, what'd you think? I said, you're a star, man. I said, come on out. I'll introduce you to my manager, Brad Gray. And the rest was history.
Brad Gray was your manager?
Yeah, Brad had me, Saget, and Shandling. Those were his first three comics. And Brad's office was his coffee table in Westwood. And so me and Gary and Bob would sit there with Brad, and he'd have all these papers spread out on his coffee table. And Gary and Bob were already signed with Brad. And so they left, and Brad and I were throwing a football at UCLA and just having fun, being buddies. And he said, Dave, I should sign you. And I said, Brad, you're going to take 15%. He goes, yeah, but if I can get you $800 in Cleveland for the week, would you do it? And I quickly thought of the math. I went, yeah, let's sign. And that was it. And that's how it was back then. It was a mom and pop operation. And Brad was our guy, and then things started to take off for Gary. And that kind of, Bob and I kind of followed in those footsteps through the Tonight Show and bigger things to come. But it was a magical time. It really was kind of innocent and cool and fun.
Well, it was exciting for me just to be sort of an adjunct to that. And I know, Minnie, you did some road work for a minute. And but I don't recall beer bottles. Right. I don't recall tomatoes. I don't know.
Thank God. Oh my God. But I know my dad, when he first started out, experienced all of that, going to clubs in LA or in New York and being thrown out and having to run out the back door with his mother who was, Gypsy Rose Lee's mother. And oh yeah, he had those experiences too, but that must have been crazy. My God. That's
It was a boom time in comedy clubs, because when I first started here in Detroit, there wasn't a comedy club here yet. There were comedy nights. But if you really wanted to go to any clubs, you had to go to New York, LA, or Chicago. And
Right.
so I actually drove my 67 Plymouth to Chicago and snuck into a bunch of comedy clubs and snuck into Second City, and, did stand up. I weaseled my way into the lineup in Chicago, and I came back and I thought, oh man, this I'm going to go to Chicago. And then a club opened up. My mom sent me an article in the paper here in Detroit, and she said a club is opening in Detroit, like the Comedy Store in LA. And I lit up and couldn't get there fast enough, but I was afraid to sign up the first night because I wanted to scope out the competition.
Sure.
So I showed up
right.
and I saw all these other comedians, and I went home and I thought, okay, I can put a really funny act together. And I started writing, and I went back 2 weeks later and signed up, and I kind of got buried in the lineup way late at night. But I remember the owner coming over to me going, hey, that was some really good stuff. I'm going to put you on earlier next week. And he
Oh.
did, and I started to get noticed a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to ask, what you both, when you did Full House, of course, how did that work with you and Bob? Did Bob get Full House, and then you got, you got
Yeah,
it
was that a
also?
concurrent, or was it
Right.
one followed the other? I mean, how did that casting go?
Bob was doing the CBS Morning program in New York.
Oh, I remember
And
that.
so we had already shot Full House, the entire pilot, with another actor named John Posey playing the Danny Tanner character. So we had shot the show, got picked up for 13 by ABC, and then Bob got fired from the morning program. And so Jeff Franklin called me and Stamos and said, hey, I want you guys to screen test with Bob Saget. And I said, for what? Are we doing another show? And he said, no, I originally wrote this character, Danny Tanner, with Bob in mind, and he's available. So I found out that Bob got fired from Jeff Franklin. I didn't even hear it from Bob. And so then I called Bob and I said, he goes, yeah, I'm flying back there to do a screen test with you and Stamos. So we did this screen test for ABC. They loved it, fired the other actor. And then we went back in and reshot all the scenes that the previous actor was in with Bob. So it was really
wow.
weird.
So it was you and Stamos, and then Bob came in. Okay. Interesting.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. Because it was almost twisted around the other way when Bob kind of brought you out to LA in some respects.
And I slept on Bob's couch.
Right.
I slept on Bob's couch when I first moved to LA. And then on Full House, Joey moves into Danny's house and ends up sleeping on the couch.
So many parallels.
That's really
it was weird.
Uh-huh.
It was,
so funny.
Life imitating art, imitating life. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Back and forth. I mean, one of my favorite memories is hanging out with you guys. And there was an apartment. I'm not sure whose it was, but I think you were there. Mike Binder, Bruce Baum. Was that your place or Bob's?
It depends what we were doing. If you tell me what we were doing, I can tell you whose apartment it was.
But I remember we'd go over there late at night, and the Tomorrow Show, which was the old show that was hosted by Tom Snyder, if you remember it, before Letterman got wearing a Letterman. It's the only thing I have written with Dave on it, the late show thing. It says Dave Letterman. I wanted to wear something that had the word Dave on it for you, Dave. And we would sit there, and Bob would do this thing where he'd turn the sound off and do a completely profane back and forth diatribe and dialogue between Tom and whomever the guest was, and just making it all up. And it was gross and hilarious, and we were just on the floor crying. And then I always thought, because later on, he and you apparently did the America's Funniest Home Videos. And guess what they do? They turn the sound off, and you do the voiceover of what's going on. And I thought, this is a little familiar.
Yeah, Bob
Oh,
stole that little trick from me because at
Oh, is
his
that what it was?
bachelor party, when he married his wife Sherry, we were at Chris Thompson's house, and Chris was a producer that created Bosom Buddies and was a Laverne and Shirley writer, very talented guy from Michigan.
Hmm.
And so he had Bob's bachelor party at his house. So it's Tom Hanks, it's Gary Shandling, it's Bob's nephew. It's a few more comics. And so, of course, they turned porn on. And I said, turn the sound off. I'm going to narrate what's going on. So
oh
I
my
started
God.
narrating it, and it was such a hit. Tom Hanks had to walk out of the room. And I saw Tom at the People's Choice Awards decades later. And we're both getting out of our cars. And I see Tom. And he goes, you know what's still the funniest line? And I said the line, it's really filthy. And he said, that made me, he goes, I've never forgotten that line. And so Bob saw what a big hit that was. And so he started taking that as if it was his own.
Can we ask you the line, Dave? I mean, this is a podcast. You can say whatever shit you want.
Yeah, I guess I could tell you.
It's up to you. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
It was, the guy's having sex with a woman, and he's wearing this necklace made of teeth. And he looks down at her and he says something, sounds off, and he says, these teeth are from some goats that I fucked. and so it was a huge laugh, and Tom Hanks never forgot it. And he, we recited the line verbatim at the People's Choice Awards. And yeah, so
oh
that was the
man,
line.
that's hilarious. Well, you can see why I like to hang out with you, Dave. It wasn't just because you're a sweetheart. I just thought you were a fucking riot. But the other thing, before we get into some other stuff, I mean, the thing that fascinated me the most about you was that you had this serious side. And most times when I would see you and we'd hang out and do whatever, grab sushi or whatever we were doing, you were just hysterical. Then one day you said, you know what, Ed, I'm a pilot. And how'd you like to go up, in this little place? I said, you want a plane? He goes, no, I rent them. And we went to Santa Monica Airport. He brought me out there, and we got in this rather small plane. I don't remember which one it was. You probably would know precisely. And I remember you gassing it up, and it took like half an hour to gas the thing up, and you did. We get in, and you became this most serious, imagine the most serious person you can think of, Mindy. I mean, you're talking about, somebody,
wow.
a CEO, a board of a CEO, the chairman of the board. I mean, just the most focused human being on the planet. And I just kept looking at you out of the side of my eye going, my God, I've never seen this side of Dave. This is amazing.
This?
Who is this man? I didn't come here for this shit. I want to laugh. So we get in the plane, and you were quite adept at it. And we end up flying over the ocean for a bit. We took off from Santa Monica, clearly. And it was a Santa Ana wind condition. And the plane was buffeting. And I was
God.
And I remember it banked once to the right. And I'm looking down at the Whitecaps. And I'm like, can we please go back? And you obliged. But you've been flying your whole life, right? I mean, this is something you do.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad took me up flying when I was 5 years old, and I got hooked. And got my pilot's license when I was 17. And it's just a fascinating world. I
Sure.
enjoy it so much. And now the fact that my son's a FedEx pilot flying 767s is
Unreal.
kind of funny
You
in a
must
way.
be so proud of that. Wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But I used to take him flying in his car seat. I would put him in his car seat. And we'd go over to
my
Catalina and get something to eat. And, he
oh man, that's
he
so
swears
fun.
he remembers those times. But, it's just, it's kind of passing the torch of aviation. We meet at Oshkosh, the giant air show in Oshkosh, Wisconsin every summer. And so sometimes I'll fly in and camp next to the airplane, and sometimes, he'll join me. But it's just really a great dad and lad experience, if you will.
Oh, sure.
I mean, do you have a lot of those? Did you have a lot of dad lassie
Oh,
experiences?
yeah.
Yeah?
Dad and
Did you?
yeah, my dad and me
Right?
driving a car where my dad was a great driver and his hands would buckle on the wheel, and I'd be like, let's just get us home, Dad, because he was not exactly adept at driving. But yeah, that, and I mean, the flying, I've never been a great flyer. So my God,
Well, there was that
that's
one trip you took, I think it was
unbelievably.
from Rhode Island or to Rhode Island on a small
Oh,
plane.
yeah. And it was on a prop.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've flown many props, but it got very rough. It's not like they have so many stabilizers or whatever in the prop. And it was just like, I felt like it was nosediving every 5 minutes. So that was not relaxing for me. So I was kind of afraid of props, but I'm sure that's, very common for you. And when, Ed, you said you flew in the small plane, they're mostly props, aren't they?
A lot of them are, yeah, most.
Yeah.
In general aviation are propeller driven. And then,
Yeah.
you get a little more sophisticated when you get into turbines and then turbofans, and then you get into jets. But yeah, most of the planes I've flown in my lifetime have been props. But, I've got jet time and turboprop time and turbines, all kinds of things.
Well, thanks to that experience, Mindy and I sit next to whenever we go anywhere, particularly if it's a long flight. And I want to take a nap. I'm sorry. I just want to close my eyes. I want to just, I don't want to be jet lagged. So I'm laying there and I got my hand on the armrest and then I feel this grip. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what? What was that? It's like,
You feel
it's just
that?
nothing.
You feel that?
Feel that?
What was that?
She's
Yeah,
been flying
I'd
her
be
whole life.
relaxing. I have. I was in the planes in the front where, they put my sort of crib in the
Overhead?
yes, thank you, Ed, in the overhead practically. But I was on a private plane one time with my parents. My dad was working in New York or something, and this is as an adult. And we were, we're flying back to LA, and we're in the plane for like an hour, and we're like skimming, across, felt like the top of the buildings for like an hour. And everybody, my parents are like having Bloody Marys, and I'm like, what's exactly happening right now that we're not? And my mother's like, oh, we're just skimming our way to the coast. We're skimming our way to the coast. And I found out from my dad's manager, he didn't want to upset me, but I guess, we had too much fuel and we had to like drop fuel for an hour. And then we ended up having to land again at the airport, in New Jersey or wherever it was, and get on another plane. But I was the only one that was I was like the pilot, Dave. I knew what was happening. My
You were
parents were
concerned,
completely
yeah.
oblivious. Yeah, my parents loved to fly. Whenever they got in a plane, that's when they were the most relaxed. My dad loved that. And he loved speaking, in those days you could speak to the pilot. He'd come out, on the planes and he'd chat with them and the flight attendant. But they loved flying. That was their favorite thing. And I was the only one that was like, why? Why is my nose rubbing on the top of these buildings for an hour? It just seemed very strange. But yeah, no, I flew, God, from when I was like 4 years old, we flew to Yugoslavia. So I definitely was on planes my whole life for sure.
It is by far the safest form of transportation.
Right.
By far.
No.
Astoundingly safer.
Than a car. And yeah, no, intellectually, I do know that.
But yeah, it was Yugoslavia was where he did Kelly's Heroes, right? I think.
That's right. With Telly Savalas and Donald Sutherland. And I heard they had a lot of fun. I was sleeping most of the time, but yeah, I heard it was a lot of fun.
Oh, sure.
What a great movie.
Dave, did you ever do any location where it didn't fly to the location? Like it's like, oh, I've got to do this particular episode of such and such, and then fly there on your own. Is that anything that you did?
Well, when we did, I have a couple of flying stories regarding work. One was in the early days of Full House. I lived in Santa Monica, and our stage was in Warner Brothers in the Valley. So I thought, well, I'm sick of driving an hour and 15 minutes, 405 to the 101. I said, so I'm going to fly just over to Burbank this morning, and then I'll take a cab. So I did that. It was 12 minutes, wheels up to wheels down. And then I took a cab and I went over to Warner Brothers. And our stage manager walks up to me after about a half hour and he goes, "Hey, your car's not in your spot. Did you get dropped off?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, do you need a?" I said, "No, I took a cab." He goes, "Why would you take a cab?" And I said, "Oh, because I flew here this morning." He goes, "You what?" I said, I'm tired of sitting in traffic, so I think I'm going to start flying over to Burbank because it's so much quicker." And he goes, "I don't think you can do that." And I said, "Well, it's really easy, you know." He goes, "No, I don't think legally you can do that." So, of course, at lunchtime, here come the executive producers with one of the studio execs. And they're like, "Dave, can we talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Do we have this right? You flew an airplane from Santa Monica over to Burbank this morning to go to work?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Isn't that cool? Like, you know, it's like so much faster." And they're like, "No, no, no. We have huge insurance policies taken out on all you guys. You can't fly to work." I said, "Oh, okay." They said, "You know, fly home today, but please don't ever do that again."
That's amazing.
Fly home today.
Then my wife and I moved to Payson, Arizona briefly for a year, which is north of Scottsdale, about an hour up in the mountains. And I had a hangar there, my airplane. So I would fly to Burbank Airport. And it was okay then, you know, but I told the producers, I said, "Hey, I'm going to fly myself to work." And they're like, "Oh, okay. All right." And so I would fly from Arizona to Whiteman Airport near Burbank, and then just Uber over to Warner Brothers. So those were my flight trips to work.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
As lucky as we are to have you, sans accident on an airplane, you've had some, pretty crazy near-death experiences of late. Can you speak to that at all? I know you've had, 2 bouts with cancer and 2 remissions, and I mean, we're absolutely thrilled about it. But please speak your mind.
Yeah, cancer twice. That wasn't something that I, saw in the crystal ball for sure. 2024, we had just built our home here that I'm sitting in. This is our office out here in a different building, but I decided I wanted to be the general contractor. So I went to contracting school and built our home. It took me 17 months. Everything was great. And my wife, Melissa, and I were just enjoying our time here on the lake here in Michigan. And I took a shower one morning, felt a little lump in my groin. And I said to her, I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" She goes, "I know this trick." And I was like, "No, like you got to really kind of rub around down there." She goes, Yeah. So we both felt this big lump, and like 2 days later, it had expanded exponentially. And she said, "We're going to the doctor." So we went to the doctor, and he goes, "We got to get some scans." Got scanned, and 5 days later, got the call, "Hey, you've got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma." And I was home alone when I got the call, and Melissa was about 20 minutes away. She walked in. She said, "Hey, have you heard anything from the doctors?" I said, "Yeah, I got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma." She goes, "Don't even make a joke like that." And I said, "No, it's true. I just got off the phone with them." And we both just collapsed. And it was the realization of reality just crashing down on you.
Right.
And so my first thought was, I think I can help people. I think I'm going to become very vocal about early screenings and, colonoscopies and prostate exams and mammograms and all that stuff. I said, I think I can be a voice for this. And once we made that decision, it was a very clear path towards we can find the silver lining here. And so that kind of took the dark side of it away in that, okay, we're marching towards a bright light here. and we're going to help some people. And so I became very public. I went on the Today Show and kind of announced to the world, this is happening to me. And I was very vulnerable, and it really struck a chord with people because a lot of men are stubborn and we tend to be very
Right.
stupid about these kind of things.
No
But I
question.
said, hey,
Right.
look, early detection saved my life, and I'm here to talk about it and be very vulnerable about it. And this can happen to anybody. And so I really wanted to know why my system crashed. So going through chemotherapy, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I went down the rabbit hole and I started searching for what was so toxic in my life that caused me to have my lymphatic system go down like this. And I realized everything in my life was toxic, from the soap I was using to the toothpaste to the shampoo to the clothes I was wearing to what I was eating, our garbage bags, our toilet paper, everything. Stuff that I thought was pretty healthy. And so I thought, I've got to replace this stuff. But it was a pretty daunting task. Like, where do I start? So I became a professional label reader. I started studying what are PFAS and BPAs and how do they affect us, and what are microplastics, and what is all this stuff contained in that I'm using. And I was shocked. It was everywhere. And so I had a thought bubble moment. I thought, this is really difficult to try and replace all this stuff, to gain the knowledge to do it, and then how do you replace it? And I started thinking, maybe I can create an e-commerce site that kind of becomes the Amazon of non-toxic. And my company Aware was born, AWEAR, because it's more than what we ingest, it's what we wear, our clothing, our skin creams, our, anything we touch with our skin. And so I started this company, Aware Market. And then while we were putting all that together, I came out, went on national TV again, made this announcement that Aware Market was coming out, and then wham, I got hit with carcinoma in my throat. And realized, okay, this is the second time in a year I've been diagnosed with a separate, unrelated cancer. I went in for a PET scan for the lymphoma, and they saw this light up in my throat. They said, something's going on there. And then a week later, they were like, we got to get you into radiation, and we got to carve off a piece of your tongue. So they went in, robotic surgery, very painful. I don't recommend it for anybody. But
unless you have the problem, then you do recommend it, I would imagine. Yeah.
Then you do whatever you have to do.
Of course.
And so I went through radiation before I was healed up. So it's hitting all that raw, And at first it wasn't too bad, but radiation is a different animal than chemo. It has different side effects. They're basically burning you from the inside out. And so I'm, and then I went back on television here about December 2nd and said, I've been re-diagnosed. And it was just a good chance for me to be able to reiterate the message of, hey, these early screenings have saved my life twice now, because we caught this carcinoma by mistake, actually. We weren't looking for new cancers. We were just trying to catch up on what's the state of the cancer that you had. Had I not gone in, we never would have found this, and I would have been in a world of hurt. So early detection saved my life twice.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, my mother's passed away now, not from this, but she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she got through it. Yeah, exactly like you did. And she went into complete remission. And that's really something, if I'm correct, that you can really get through not very easily for sure, but it is, a cancer that can be controlled. And
if you find it early, like you were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was stage 1 with this carcinoma, and I can't imagine it progressing to like stage 3 or stage 4, because this has been a really painful experience. And I'm in week 7 of post-radiation treatment, and week 7 is probably the most painful because it's cumulative. And it's the week that most patients have the most difficulty. And yesterday I woke up, my throat was swollen shut. And I'm like, I've got to go and be a sales penguin today. How the heck am I going to pull this off?
Oh, God.
So I went and did it. And I have to tell you that sometimes Oxycontin is a really great drug.
In the right dose, I suppose. Yeah.
Great. But you're in complete remission now. Is that right?
Yeah, complete remission, and got all my tests, and the doctors said I'm in the top 10% of patients who go through this in regards to effects, healing, getting my taste back, pain. I can't imagine being in the lower 50%, but they said, this is really difficult for a lot of people. So you don't want to go through this. And man, those tests you realize how important that those screenings and those tests are.
Yeah,
for sure.
I had a family member with stage 3 colon cancer, and I won't say who, but it was a long, harrowing experience. Thankfully, she's fine. I had melanoma, which I caught very, very early, as Mindy knows.
That's right.
Got the call when I was on a flight boarding with Ethan, our son Ethan, going to New York, and Ethan's like, "What happened?" He's a very nervous kid. I said, "I got this diagnosis," and he had the worst trip.
Just so anxious.
Terrible time. But yeah, we got it out.
Cancer is the most difficult for your caregivers, people that care about you.
Oh, sure.
It's really, I think it's toughest for them because a lot of times they feel helpless. They don't know how to help you. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. And that's all okay. But I've realized, you realize who you marry when you go through cancer. And my wife has been unbelievable.
Wow.
She has been here every step of the way, been to every doctor appointment, every radiation treatment, every chemo treatment. And she's just been an unbelievable force in my life. And it would have been a much different journey without her. It would have been, it would have really sucked.
That's so, I'm sure. That's so great to have that kind of love and support.
Yeah. She's been amazing. Yeah.
Well, when I got back from the doctor from mine, Mindy she was home, but that's okay.
And I collapsed.
I can live with it. I can live with that because it showed me that you cared, and that was all I needed to know. Well, that's a journey, Dave, that is unique and obviously not unique. I mean, people all over the world, are dealing with this, and as I mentioned, our family members, Mindy's and mine. So
for sure.
We did a radio show once years ago when I was with our syndication company about cancer. It was called The Cancer Room. And it was hosted by a woman named Selma, whose father was a rabbi. And she was a breast cancer survivor at the age of 27, and sadly she's passed. But in the meantime, we were able to get, I think, about 100 affiliates on the show. And I was so thrilled to have done it because it meant so much to so many people. So get the word out about this. Like you said, check yourself. Go to your doctor, get a screening, do such and such, try to figure out what's going on. So I'm glad everything worked out. I really am.
And, I've had a ton of cancer. I lost my mom, my sister, and my niece all to breast cancer. My sister Karen, my oldest sister Karen, just went through 65 radiation treatments. So it's been prevalent with women in my family, and I've seen their experiences. So, in a way, I saw what they went through, and I thought to myself, okay, this is happening to me now. If I can have just 10% of the strength that I saw them show through their journeys, I'm going to be just fine. So they were my inspiration through all of this.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
You've inspired us, I'll tell you that. I mean, to be able to do that. And just having known you as long as I've known you, I'm incredibly happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Let's say, I'm sure you are too. Just making a hard left on this one. I wanted to get back and circle back to Mindy's dad a little bit because that's our, he's part of his face is on the podcast, so we have to do something. But I pulled a clip that I thought you might like. And of course, he was very famous for the roasting thing. And Dean's daughter and her husband have been gracious enough to allow us to use these clips. This was one he did of, this is a pretty well-known one. I think this one's got 11 million views, so it's not like no one's seen it. This is the one he did of Frank Sinatra, his great mentor and his great friend. So feel free to comment throughout, after, however you want to do it. Yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts on it, just to get a fresh view of his work.
may I say publicly to you, is the bomb of the year. Dick Haymes would have had a turnout. It's all over, Frank. I know you don't like to hear that. It's gone. To my black brothers, Red Fox, Flip Wilson, LaWanda Page, sorry. But your whole life, your dear, wonderful, wonderful new wife, Barbara. Barbara, the one with the diamond on her nose. I have a Jewish wife. She doesn't do that. She has so much jewelry on, she can't keep her head up. Enjoy. I'm singing in the rain.
Gene Kelly on the dais.
Yes.
Our audience can't see it. He's going literally all across
Running
the dais.
back and forth, dancing.
Junior 90, lay down.
Look at all those famous faces. Wow.
I know, isn't that amazing? Gene Kelly and
I mean, it was just, you look at
it
this.
was amazing how all those people are up there. I love seeing that, all these old stars that, I grew up with that just were so amazing. Uh-huh.
And you know what? These roasts still hold up. They're still funny.
Don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like the Honeymooners. I can always watch a Honeymooners episode and laugh.
Oh, hell yeah.
And
that's
oh my
like
God.
Ed's
these
favorite.
roasts.
Oh, no. Yeah.
These roasts, I can watch these roasts and laugh every single time. And, my son's like, Dad, who are these people? Like, you don't know any of them.
That's
but
so crazy.
These were the biggest people
stars.
in life.
Biggest people in life. I mean, the Jackie Gleason, Art Carney thing. I mean, that went to the Flintstones, which is kind of what that was based on, as you know.
Yeah.
And there's, in life, I mean, there's two guys in our pool, Mindy. You don't even know this. This is one guy, heavy set, older man, and a younger guy, not that much younger, but real skinny. And they're it's Fred and Barney. It's Jackie and Art. They do the same thing. And I'm sure they don't even know it. It's just one guy dominates, the other guy laughs at him and giggles the whole time. But show business, I guess back then, and I heard this quote, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, Dave, or not, but back then it was smaller. It was a smaller club, There were not as many big.
You didn't have the influencers. And it was like when you were a star then, you were really talented and, there was a reason you were a star.
Yeah.
So it hence became a smaller club. It was just the talent had to be there. You couldn't get away with it.
That's right.
And not have that.
Yeah. How many followers would these guys have had?
Okay,
Can you imagine? I know, right?
I know.
This particular
It's
video has
crazy.
got 11 million, so people still like to see this stuff. Something else.
Yeah.
George just went, who's going to?
George Burns.
Smoke from Frank.
What's this, London?
Smoking in Don's face.
Jilly Rizzo, who gave me a break in Miami Beach. Guy said, you stink. And Jilly walked over and said, and he killed the Don. It's a man that's in charge of the Italian people. Di capo, di bande, di bendi. Pupazzi, di bandi, pumandi, di bendi. Jews don't do that. We make a phone call, give a few dollars, and they all go away. And the blacks go, I didn't hold no grocery store up. And the Polish people go, any trouble? And my dear friend Jack Klugman from Quincy, one of the great actors, who said to me, get me a broad, a monkey, a dog, anybody. Get me an old moose.
I see Jonathan Winters there, who I just adored.
What a legend.
I adored Jonathan
amazing.
Winters. As a kid, when he would just do props and he would do his improvs and stuff. So when I was working on the Muppet Babies cartoon with Jim Henson, they were recording the Smurfs over in the studio next to us, and Jonathan Winters played Papa Smurf or Grandpa Smurf or one of the Smurfs. So all of a sudden, he just walks into our session and he starts playing around. And I was on that show with a guy named Frank Welker. And Frank has done just every voice you can possibly imagine. He's a genius. And I still see Frank at conventions and stuff. And we were on Real Ghostbusters together. And so I remember walking out. I left our session because I wanted to go and just see Jonathan Winters go and record. So I walked in with him, and he was just doing a show for like me and the engineer. And it was the most amazing thing to be a part of, he just wanted to have an audience right then. And so he started picking up props and microphones and doing characters. And for like 5 minutes, I got to just be an audience, private audience for Jonathan
incredible.
Winters. It was incredible.
Amazing.
He was really a genius. Yeah.
He was something else. Let's wrap this one up.
Ronald Reagan, our great former governor, who said to me, "Hey, they should have been the president! Should have been the president!"
Brenda Reagan.
Ronald Reagan's there.
I gave him a cookie and he went away. He's a real guy.
Jimmy Stewart.
But all the great stars. Bob Hope couldn't be here tonight. He's looking for war.
Is that Orson Welles?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Tell the truth, I exaggerate. I make fun of blacks, whites, Jews, Jews. We're the chosen people. We had a few bum breaks. I must admit that. The Red Sea trick. Dean, it's morning. Now, and I'm praying people. Softly, everybody.
This is right around when Godfather came out. Where he puts the tissue in his mouth. Doing Brando.
God.
Yeah. This is Frank right on the
And
mouth.
he's kissing him. Yeah.
He enjoyed it. From the bottom of my heart. To all of you. And to wonderful Peter Falk. Over here, Peter. Look at this side. Everybody laughs at about her looks. Red dog. And Orson Welles, 30 years ago you were handsome, and now we're going to put Goodyear on your face and fly over the beach for a half hour. Milt Pearl, who kept checking with him going, "Is that funny?" We love you, Milton, but it's over. And LaWanda, you'll come in on Tuesday, just the furniture.
Jeez.
From Murray Franklin's to the big lights of Las Vegas. This wonderful gentleman that we honor tonight was in my corner then, he's in my corner now. We do not dance together, we do not break bread every day together. But when I'm in his company, Dean knows this and you know this, I speak of him with love, and I tell you, we have been blessed to have such a man. Good night.
You know, here's the greatest thing about your dad is that he would go through and rip an entire room, and then he would say this little kind of, not so much a mea culpa, but he would then tell everybody how much he loved him. And you loved him. You loved him even beyond the funny. You just loved him as a human being at that point because you realized it's all a joke.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
It's all in good fun. I'm going to insult all of you because we need to laugh at each other. And, you know, I say this when I speak at places and people ask me about comedy, I said, you know, it's too bad that there's never going to be another Richard Pryor or a Don Rickles or a George Carlin, people that broke down barriers to make us realize it's okay to look at our differences and laugh at ourselves. Mm-hmm. Once you can't do that, as a society, you're in trouble because we are all different. And you have to talk about those differences because that's what makes us all so unique. And your dad did that. And you look at the world now where everybody wants to, we should be the same, and we should all have the same, and we should all,
Right.
respect the same, and this and that. And it's like, you need to laugh and talk about our differences, because
That's
once you
right.
take that away, you have this kind of situation that we're living in right now, which is everybody's pissed off. Everybody's looking for a reason to be pissed off. And if you don't understand someone immediately and embrace them, you're hated for that in a lot of ways. And we have to get past this time that we're in, where we get back to, let's laugh at ourselves. And no one did it better than your dad.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's so true, Dave. Absolutely.
Because, comedians,
now more than ever,
our job is to pick away, tear away at that social strata that exists for bullshit reasons, and comedians do that. They deflate the situation. They talk about the elephant in the room. They say the thing that everybody's thinking it, but the comedian is the one that's going to say that.
That's right.
And we need that, because it's really kind of it's a check and balance system on, our society. It's so needed, and guys like Carlin broke down barriers, and Richard Pryor broke down barriers, and Don Rickles broke down barriers. And it's okay to laugh. It's okay. We got
we
too
need it
serious.
now so much.
Yeah, we got way too serious, and everybody's looking for a reason to be offended.
Well, Dave, we can't thank you enough for being here.
Oh, Dave,
and
thank
sharing
you
so much.
Thank you for having me. But I have to end with the most incredible story. So I had never met your dad. So Stamos and Saget said, Don is playing in Vegas. He's 80 years old. We need to go and see him. Because at that point, Bob and John had both become very good friends with your dad.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we fly to Vegas. We meet Brad Gray and John Lovitz there. And so we go and we sit in this booth. And of course, we're in the booth where your dad knows I'm going to rip on those people.
Right.
And so it's me and Brad and Bob and John, and Lovitz I don't think he was at our booth, but he joined us later. And so your dad stops the show and rips on each one of us. And his whole take on Full House was, turn on some show, Full House. Mommy, give me some apples. That was his take on Full House, was, Mommy, give me some apples.
Whatever the hell that meant, right?
Whatever that meant, right?
Things that were nonsensical, right? That's funny.
He just ripped on me. Someone handed him my name, I guess, a little thing. But he said, Dave Coulier, comedian? Never heard of him. That was all he said. But it was my badge of honor that I got ripped on by Don Rickles. And so afterwards, we go backstage. Your dad kills. I couldn't believe that an 80-year-old could go and kill the way he did. It was packed. It was so sharp.
Right.
We go in the dressing room, and he was this sweetest person I ever met. It was like, that was the show.
Right.
But now I'm Don. And so then we went to dinner, and we sat there like little kids. And your dad just told stories for 2 hours. And we were just sitting there like little kids, saying, is the Sinatra story true about, when you said, he was just dating your mom and he wanted to impress her and had her come to Vegas? I don't know if this story's, I didn't know if this story was ever true, but I found out it was. And so Frank is there, and he goes over to Frank. He says, I'm with this young lady. I'm going to come over and talk to you, and, just come over and say a couple of nice words, to our table, blah, blah. So he came over. Frank gets up, gets the high sign from your dad, comes over, says, hi, I'm Frank Sinatra. And your dad looks up, Frank, I'm in the middle of dinner. Do you mind?
And it's a great story.
So it was such a great story to hear that it was true, that it was actually that he pulled that prank on Frank Sinatra.
Absolutely.
And I'd heard that story like it was folklore for so many years. Your dad was so kind and amazing. But then John Lovitz tried to chime in on something. And he goes, John, I never liked you. You're an offensive Jew. And you know what? We were at the party that one time. You blew me off for Kevin Costner. So I got nothing to say to you. And Lovitz is like, Don, the reason that I talked to Kevin was, no, John, you're not a good Jew. You're not a good human. You blew me off for Costner. Costner.
Oh, man, that's great.
That sounds very true.
It was one of those magical moments that I had in my life where I got to sit down with someone who I adored, and they over-delivered bigger than life than I ever could have imagined. It was just a time I can still put myself in that moment and just get goosebumps because it was so special.
I'll tell you something as a follow-up to that one. But I do remember when we saw your parents, Mindy, and they mentioned that they had gone to dinner with you. And I don't think I've told you this story, honey. But and this is something your dad would do because it was just, you didn't want to one-up Don. You didn't want to do that, which is what John apparently had done, Lovitz, in a different context. But he says, I went to dinner with, John Stamos and Bob Saget and this guy, Dave Coulier. I said, I said, you mean Dave Coulier? He goes, yeah, Dave Coulier. I said, yes, I've actually known Dave since we were like, all right, Ed. Okay, you knew him before. Well, okay, that's just great. Congratulations. Who cares? And it was one of many times I remember, just keep your mouth shut and just be
Let
there.
him talk.
Let him talk. Let him have his experience. No need to say anything. Just watch the Dodger game, fall asleep on the couch, and that's all you need to do.
That's right.
That's it. That was our relationship. Watch the game, fall asleep. Yeah. So that's a great story, though, Dave.
It really is.
Well, wonderful to have you.
Oh, so great, Dave.
This may be one for the record books, Mindy. This went over an hour, so I guess Dave liked us. So that was good.
Oh, Dave, no. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
We love you, and we're happy you're here. We're happy.
We are very happy that you're healthy, and you look amazing, I got to tell you. That was the first thing I thought. I'm like, I don't know, what this guy's been through, but he looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's so nice. Thank you. That's nice. Thank you.
So you and Jeff Daniels have a nice life out there in Michigan, and I hope everything goes well.
Twin sons of different mothers, yeah.
I guess
we're actually friends. Jeff and his wife are coming over next week, so they're good friends.
Funny.
Yeah,
so nice.
Yeah, the two celebrities that do live in Michigan. Thanks again, Dave. Wonderful having you.
Thank you so much.
And thanks everybody for listening.
Much love to you guys. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, you too, Dave.